Hello and welcome back to another on the Recipe and to another edition of AEW Dynamite Out of 10. And yeah, of course it's a big episode today because we're not far away now from World's End. We've got all the build up for that, and of course we've got the Continental Classic going on at the minute too. So yeah, a lot going on, and of course winter is coming next week. So we're going to start things off with Tony Schiavone, who announced everyone was banned from ringside for a face-to-face between Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston, but Joe didn't let Schiavone host a face-to-face, sending him to the announce table. The Samoa Submission Machine clearly explained that the Ops used the Mad King. Kingston, who was more focused on Joe, promised to eat you alive next week if Joe didn't bring the old school ROH legend next week. But between Collision and Dynamite, the Mad King proved that he's back, at least on the mic. It made him a star, didn't it? He took Joe's best threats and warnings and fired back with such confidence. It seems it is impossible that Kingston could dethrone him, but the crowd was absolutely mad for him. If the crowd supports Kingston this much, who knows, we may get a surprise. Before we moved on to the C2 Gold League between Pac and Okada, Pac went for his running rebound clothesline multiple times in this fight, but the Rainmaker had the answer. Even when the bastard finally landed it, the Rainmaker reversed the follow-up brutalizer attempt into a surprise pin for free. Few men bring more out of Okada than Pac. Their chemistry is obvious every time they compete. This wasn't as good as their Dynasty match last year, but it was a massive bar to reach. This was a simpler contest built on Okada's frustrations in matching his hard-hitting opponent. The Rainmaker put over the bastard is truly dangerous. Okada needs to win this one. Typically 10 points needed to advance. So yeah, the Rainmaker couldn't really afford to lose anymore. 6 out of 10. As we then moved on to Fletcher v Knight in the Gold League. Fletcher was not ready for the spirited fight of Knight, almost losing this one. He just managed to catch the jet with the Brainbuster to seal the win. Don Callis took the ring with the Young Bucks, Money, as well as Hechicera and Josh Alexander. The Bucks ran down to grab the money, but Okada arrived to take out his former friends. Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus and eventually Omega came out to even the odds, but the family pecked hold of the money. It's rare Fletcher competes with someone near his age, but 28-year-old Knight worked this as a hungrier man against Fletcher. The Dynamic spoke of the evolution of the Proto Star. He's become such an established star in AEW. He gave Knight a really good match, despite ultimately Knight falling short. This is the best match of the tournament so far, setting a high bar. At the early stage, these are two men fighting for the title of in-ring MVP of the tournament. The Jet feels position to break out when it's over. The follow-up segment of Brawl was silly fun to keep this feud going. The sheer numbers on display took the advantage of Okada and Fletcher's post-match exhaustion. The Elite and Jurassic Express stood tall this time, but they may still need even more help to fight the family at full strength. I would say it would be nice to see a more dramatic Okada turn against the Bucks, given their history. But there we go. I'm going to say it's an 8 out of 10 for the match, 6 out of 10 for the post-match. Overall, I'll go at 7 out of 10. We then got the hardcore holiday death match between Timeless Love Bombs and the Mega Problems. The Timeless Love Bombs fought with pure passion to overcome the brutal efficiency of the Mega Problems, but they needed help. The help that came in the form of a returning Luther in the guise of Santa, distracting Shafina to allow Storm to stab her with a shoe for the victory. This could have absolutely closed the show given the stakes. It was the least technical match of the night, but it was pure violent fun. It was a showcase of why the women in AEW thrive in this hardcore environment, always finding ways to make the most of the wild spots and everything. Storm and Mina kept their pace, capturing a big win. It was a hardcore in the final of the tournament, but I think Mina and Storm should probably do it. 7 out of 10. As we then moved on to the Ops versus the Dark Order. While the Dark Orders fought hard, they were overwhelmed by the power. Hook and Shibata held Reynolds and Silver, while Hobbs laid out Uno with the world's strongest slam to win. Hangman stormed the ring and went after the Ops. Security tried to calm things down, but the Cowboy took them out. Afterwards, backstage, the Cowboy threatened Hobbs and Shibata that he was looking for a fight, and teased they knew who he'd be teaming up against. This was a fine building block segment for the feud. It was clearly accomplished this week. Hangman and the Dark Order teased the returning connection. However, AEW has done so before without payoff. The Cowboy got closer to taking out the Ops, but was still held for a moment. The only real difference was that Joe was focused on Kingston for now, and Swerve didn't appear this week. The post-brawl was probably the stronger element, and teased a much bigger moment next week when Hangman and Swerve team up for the common enemy. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. We then got John Moxley v Castagnoli in the Blue League. Castagnoli delivered a masterclass and breaking down his opponents, wearing out Mox until he hit the knockout blow with a running European uppercut for free. This was the first time in a while Mox has worked as a babyface in the contest, just trying to survive the offensive flurry of the Swiss Superman. While Mox bleeding in common, the Crimson Mask was clearly set up for a reason for the crowd to rally behind the Death Rider. The crowd was genuinely chanting Mox just before the finish, which came faster than expected. The commentators repeatedly pointed out the ticking time bomb. Castagnoli won clearly with strength over Mox at the 15 minutes mark, and this sets the table for the inevitable betrayal of the Swiss Superman. While Mox looked stronger here than against O'Reilly, refusing to submit, he was clearly overwhelmed by a man on a near unstoppable run. On of these days real shown, the Death Riders is going to end, and yeah, it will spell disaster for the original Death Rider. 8 out of 10. Overall, AEW Dynamite gets a 7 out of 10 from me. Yeah, the C2 has already proved to be consistently strong television. You know, some great matches on there, some really good stories as well. Obviously set up a big women's tag final next week as well. Kingston and Joe, that was a great segment with the promo. The Ops maybe was the thing that maybe let the show down a tiny bit, but on the whole, a very strong show.
That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.